Thank you, Harry. I was hoping this was going to be very informative, but having spoken to Malcolm, I'm not sure that's the right outcome now. I would like to share with you our experiences of outsourcing procurement. So an IT director giving you an experience of how we've outsourced procurement for our indirect spend categories, one of which, and the main one of which, was IT. I think it'd be remiss of me not to just give you a few corporate slides about the organisation and what we do. So some nice pictures, but I will skip through those very quickly. Really, I have about 10 minutes of content, so it would be really helpful if you could ask me some questions, either as we go through or at the end. Okay, so if we can get this working, there we go. Maybe not. Aha, thank you. Okay, Severn Trent Services. We are the non-regulated part of the Severn Trent Group. You may be more familiar with Severn Trent Water, which is the water utility that sits in the middle of the UK. But Severn Trent Services is actually a global business that operates contracts for water services across the globe, and we also sell a lot of product across all the different regions across the world as well. Operating services wise, people are outsourcing their management of water and wastewater assets to us, and we manage that for more than 50 million people worldwide. We also sell across the globe over 50 brands, and these are disinfection, filtration equipment that we sell into industry in America, the Europe, Middle East, Asia, and also Asia Pac and Africa. Essentially, we know water, and we are leading experts in water, and we provide water services for business and for domestic use. Okay. The headquarters for Severn Trent Services is actually on the east coast of America. As Harry said, 2,500 employees. Our revenue turnover is about $600 million per annum. Okay. Wrong way. And I'm going to get used to this in a moment because I'm going backwards now. There we go. We operate out of all of those regions, Americas, EMEA, and Asia Pac. The majority of the organisation is actually based in the US, where we have the majority of our contracts. Interestingly enough, as an outsourcer or an outsourcing provider, we have contracts that are 25-year in duration with the MOD. We also have contracts in the US where the local municipality gives us a month's notice. So it's pretty diverse operation and a number of different contracts that we have in place. So as you can imagine, across that widespread of business streams and also regions, we have quite a challenge in the way that we actually go about spending money in the organisation, particularly on indirect spend. And that's our profile of indirect spend today that we went to market with. $71 million, of which the largest category was IT and telecoms, 11 million, which is mine, followed by travel, facilities management, logistics, freight, and several other services around HR, marketing, etc. So you can see the spend profile there, and that's what we went out to market with. We felt that we could be a hell of a lot smarter in the way that we went about putting in procurement deals across all of that, or across all of those categories. Right, what did we do? It was a 6-month period over which we looked for a strategic procurement partner to manage all of that indirect spend. Those were the key categories that we asked for the partner to look at, which I've just mentioned. The order of magnitude 71 million, and then on 1st of October 2013, last year, we entered into a 3-year deal with Exchanging. And on the 2nd of October, I think, testimony to Harry's network, he phoned me up and said, how'd you like to come and present and give us share your experiences? So there's obviously a good link in there with Exchanging and Harry. Just wanted to show you how we made that choice and the options that we considered. So we looked at a range of outcomes, but a range of options as well, from us doing nothing and continuing with that spend profile as we were, having an internal procurement division versus going out to market with a strategic partner that we outsource to on both a fixed price or a full gain share or a hybrid of the two. So the option that we went with and that we have the deal with Exchanging on is an actual hybrid. There are various reasons for that. The biggest reason really is that a number of these contracts that we were putting in across those categories, we were more concerned about the value of the contract as opposed to it just being all price driven. So putting contracts in place, we were not looking at a lot of these as being just commodity, where we're buying paper or loo roll or etc. I'm sure there's a quality aspect to loo roll as well. But, we really did want to make sure that we had the right incentive for Exchanging to give them an element of fixed price, but also make sure that they shared in some of the wins that we got. So why did we do it? Coming to Bill's point earlier, I think, about making sure you know and understand exactly why you're entering into an outsourcing arrangement. We knew that we weren't buying things in the best way. We knew that we were buying things inefficiently across lots of different regions, across lots of different businesses in those regions. We knew that by doing that, we weren't getting benefit out of suppliers by giving them our total volume that we manage across the globe. And equally, we weren't working as one Severn Trent organisation. So we were working in lots of different individual domains. Exchanging had the ability to provide better management of our indirect spend and brought that expertise to the table. We wanted to get rid of a lot of unnecessary costs that we were incurring across doing multiple contracts in a small way. And again, it was about cross-business collaboration for us, and certainly from an IT perspective, it was helping us drive some centralisation of IT and IT services that we're delivering across Severn Trent Services. So just looking at that in a little bit more detail, the solution that Exchanging provided as an organisation versus our key challenges. The majority of our spend is still in the US, and they were a US-centric team. They knew about procurement. We knew that we were very subscale in the way that we were procuring. They have a lot of knowledgeable resource across many categories. It was about intimacy as well. We wanted it to be a relationship, and we wanted them to understand our organisation, so that they would be on our shoulder for each and every deal that we were going to do in the future. How did we do it? First of all, we had Exchanging deploy a small on-site team. They were located in Pennsylvania, right next to our headquarters. So again, they brought in a procurement division effectively onto site. They had all of the tools, techniques, behind them from their Chicago-based offices where their shared service team was. They also have a global presence, which we needed to still do deals across UK, Europe and Asia. And we actually appointed one single manager to manage the exchanging contract. He was came out of the Severn Trent Water organisation, so there was a link there because there are some things that we buy at a group level that we could take advantage of, and he facilitated that arrangement with exchanging, and he's still doing so today for all of our indirect spend. And then finally, we built the governance model about how this was going to work, and just share that with you for 2 minutes. Really important for us was how this was going to be governed. So we very much saw it as a transformation program from the October 1st for the first 3 months, a transformation program across the whole of Severn Trent Services. For each category, as you saw, at the tactical level, we introduced a category review board. So I would be leading the category review board with exchanging for IT. And within that, we would do our strategic planning. We would look at what our pipeline would be around contracts coming forward and what we wanted exchanging to negotiate with us and on our behalf. Above that, implementation steering group, which is fortnightly and was a short-term board to make sure that we got exchanging fully integrated into the business, and that we made the actual transformation to get everybody across the organisation understanding what exchanging were there to do and how they could help. And then we still continue on with a quarterly service review board to make sure that the contract is still going in the right direction and that they are achieving a lot of the savings that we anticipated from the outset. So, benefits. I'll share some of these with you. They are really small scale at the moment because the first 3 months was about setting up the category review board, setting up implementing the transformation of exchanging into business, and as we know and we've discussed with a lot of tender exercises, they take time to come to fruition, which they haven't yet, but I'll come on to those. So far, up to the end of March last year, we had about 6% saving across the categories that and all of the categories that exchanging had helped us negotiate. And so far this year, $16,000, that's all in the first month. But our target with them is for $3.5 million, just over dollars, for that indirect spend to be reduced by over the financial year and the term of the contract. From my side, in terms of the IT category, where have we seen some savings to date? We actually outsource our service desk, so that's Microsoft Service Desk in terms of how do I work with Office products, and that was an existing contract that we already had in place with an outsourcer of that service called Vitalist, and they essentially negotiated an extra 15% out of that deal. Similarly, we have consultancy for a fixed telephony ShoreTel implementation that we're doing across the US, and again they took 5% out of the consultancy figures that we were getting. And I will say that where we were in the business was that we had no procurement function, it was left to the operation. I was putting in deals where I'm used to having a procurement commercial guy sat on my shoulder to help negotiate. I'm not the greatest negotiator in the world, the professionals that can do that. And they basically were coming in and taking a lot of that burden off me. So active and pipeline, which is where we're going to see some serious savings. The mobile phone consolidation. we have so many different mobile phone contracts today across the US, across all the different regions in the US, with Verizon, Sprint, Vodafone in Europe, and many other providers, you name them, we've probably got them. So they are consolidating all of that and taking 50% out of our entire mobile phone costs. We're just in negotiations with, and I think I can safely say we're moving to Verizon. So the 50% that we've taken out there is a big saving for us. And then other pipeline work, printing. We do a lot of localized printing. We need to centralize what we do. A lot of the printer peripherals around toner, cartridges, all the rest of it. All of that is being bought into central contract that we're negotiating, and we expect to take again a lot of cost out of that, including then going into facilities management and logistics and all the paper and everything else that is associated with that. Mobile phone support and field technology. I know Bill mentioned earlier. It's a big drive for us. We have a lot of guys on those operating contracts that are out in the field, putting in mobile work technology and solutions for them, and we are negotiating deals with providers to do that today. Networking, we have large wide area network across the globe. We feel as though we can take a significant amount of cost out of that, both through redesign and actually procuring from a provider far better than we do now. PC hardware, we're going to standardise across all of the globe around one laptop, desktop device that we can, and corporate hardware that we can then deliver out. And we have a number of ERP, so SAP, etc. We have a number of ERP needs, system needs across the US and the water products business that we are looking at negotiating with providers today. So, final slide. Some positives and negatives as I see them from our outsourcing experience. First of all, the governance model absolutely feel is essential to making sure that the contract is well managed, it's got some structure, it's got some discipline, and we're constantly making sure that exchanging to deliver what we need, but equally exchanging are getting the right input from ourselves. I did mention already, feels like there is a weight taken off our shoulders around the commercial negotiation piece. We've also improved in areas we thought were already exhausted, so we're already about in contract and about to renew contract with existing providers. They have been able to come in and help us renegotiate on those existing contract renewals. Exchanging do have a variety of resource, so rather than us having bought a team and built a team internally, we are able to go out and get their network guy or their Microsoft guy or their printer guy, but generally they've got experience in having done this elsewhere before, so we can call upon a variety of resources as part of that contract. It has helped us considerably with the centralised push for IT. It's really helped us consolidate our spend across the many regions and businesses that we have. It's not all bed of roses. From our side, it's very difficult to keep pace with change. So exchanging are very driven with the fact that they are on both fixed price and getting an incentive for the savings that we make too. They are very keen to push and work at pace, and probably at a pace that we weren't overly comfortable with or familiar with at times. But also, they have tended to try and grab and chase after the golden goose. So on the printing side, we have a number of locations where we know we can get benefit almost immediately out of moving to centralised printing. They are looking at it globally, see the size of the prize and want to push us into doing that far quicker across all of our facilities, all of our offices, which has, quite frankly, delayed some of the aspects and some of the early wins that we were expecting. But, on balance, the outsourcing arrangement is working for us today. So that's all I have in terms of material. So hopefully you've got some questions. Thank you.
With the contracts that they're helping you out with,
Mm-hmm.
how do you balance the cost savings that they're helping you achieve with the other contract terms, and how did you contractualise how they're supposed to balance those cost sort of immediately tangible savings versus the sort of perhaps less tangible other terms of the contract?
Well, we do have a fixed rate card, if you like, for the people that we use on the negotiations of the contract. So they've essentially, as I said, made their money effectively from the contract before the actual negotiation and the final contract signature. I think anything that they get, there is a gain in that, but we're very conscious that it is a balance, and we are looking at value, and we may actually get more in terms of scope or value out of those contracts, but for the same price. But that's still us driving that as in terms of our requirement. What do we want, as opposed to exchanging, forcing us into a price. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. So basically, you remain in the driving seat,
yes,
in terms of
definitely.
what you're going for.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
And it's a related question, actually, but how do you measure, or how do you know when you've got a good deal?
I think it varies across the different contracts within my category. So I know that I quite frankly are getting a better deal at the minute because I'm actually consolidating a lot of existing spend that has been done in a very suboptimal way across lots of smaller entities in the group. So for me, I know that it still feels quite cost-driven at the moment for us because we know there's lots of cost to go at there. Whether we know that our existing colleagues in different parts of the world have actually put in local agreements, which we know have got to be far more expensive than us, having gone to one contractor with a tier 2, and we're seeing that cost come out today. So it is largely around cost, when I know that we're doing the right thing, and that's particularly around the main one that we've focused on initially, which is mobile phones, and that is generally commodity for airtime and also the cost of the device. Is that? Yeah.
What obstacles have you had to overcome? Sometimes when change is imposed across a big organisation, people struggle with the loss of control. So with that in mind, what obstacles like that have you had to face, if any, and what others do you foresee as you kind of embed this in your organisation?
Yeah, the biggest obstacle, I would say, two areas. First one is there is a perceived loss of control at a local level. So in the Gulf region, which is down in Texas, we have a huge amount of operating contracts there. and they basically said, unless you choose Verizon, yeah, this business is going to completely break, and I'm very uncomfortable about losing my local control for the way that I purchase my mobile phones for my guys in the field that are doing a job. We won't be able to service the customer. You know, world's going to fall apart. So that didn't sway our decision to go to Verizon, but we do say, look, it is a commercial deal, and we will do the best for the whole organisation. But it's the same in many of those different business entities. The local manager is almost God, and has had control over virtually the whole spend and the whole P&L within his grasp, and it has been a huge change to grasp that and actually understand what their actual costs were, because all those costs were split out into various business units, which is why, from a governance perspective, we really needed that top-down support to make that happen as a transformation programme. Second thing, the other obstacle, we have had situations where we've not been overly comfortable with some of the resources that exchanging have put in front of us. So we have switched out one or two people. We've changed the area of their expertise and the area of that they're familiar with, on both at the top level for managing the entire account and for some of the local categories as well. So those are the two, I guess, obstacles that I've seen so far.
How have you managed local service variations between different territories?
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned at the moment that's not been. We've also been trying to get some standardisation across the group, so it's been a vehicle for implementing a lot of that standardisation. There are some, there are some local ones, and the one that I mentioned about the experience we've had thus far around mobile phones, and a certain account that is already in place, the way that it's serviced, the way that it's supported, more so than the actual what they pay for airtime today. So the service we've had to retain by putting in a separate contract for mobile phone support with a company called Cannon, just to be able to service them as quickly and as they need, or as their existing needs are provided to them today for the job that they do. So I don't know how many more of those are going to come out as we look at some of those categories across the US and across the rest of the world. But I think you're right, it can be a challenge where there is some very local specific services that they require. But we're trying to challenge them, get some as much as possible to try and just drive a standard across the group.
Mark, question for you. Can you shed some light on assessing the third-party provider, so exchanging? What due diligence did you carry out? Did you do some internal working groups? How did you come to choose them? Are you able to share some information on that?
Yeah, we did go out to tender and assess them formally against a number of other providers. In all honesty, the thing that's made exchanging stand out, I would say, as well as price, but they built a very good relationship with us even before the contract was awarded, in the way that they impressed us with the analytics that they did on our existing spend profile, that 71 million. So they actually took a lot of raw data, broke that down as part of the tender exercise, and they were certainly a significant way ahead of some of the others in the way that they'd done that for us, where they felt that they could get some significant savings.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's me again. When you talk about cost savings, is that based on procurement price or invoice price to you, or do you calculate into that any internal savings that you might make over time?
We didn't calculate any. So we didn't calculate any internal savings from a procurement because we had no formal procurement function. In terms of the internal savings that we make from the contracts that we put in, like service desk outsourcing, where we may make one or two internal employee savings. Yes, that's calculated into the price for what we save as an organisation, bottom line OPEX.
Thanks very much. Very good. It's a very global feeling contract, so quite a spread.
Yes.
Is there any real competitor to exchanging that's able to do this? And if there isn't, how are you going to keep this fresh?
Yeah. I think that it is a good question, and I think exchanging have won, but we have the majority of our business in the US, so I think the US presence is the key for us. So I think there are plenty of we found plenty of competition within the US, as you'd expect. I think they do have an advantage at the moment, being truly global. Without naming any names, it is a concern for us. We built in a 3-year deal, but it is a concern for us where we go beyond that and who we could potentially go to. But I think we'll see what the lie of the land is, and if we've got some global contracts already in place after that 3 years, then potentially even if they're sourced out of the US, we continue to source those out of the US, then hopefully we could go and switch to another, and there'd be plenty of competition out there for exchanging. So, yeah, it's a good question.
Indeed, it was.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it up there. A big thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together.
Thank you.
Mark.